to my classroom. I'm Nicole. This is 5th grade social studies, and these are my students, Lawson and Garrett. And today we're going to learn about the 3 branches of government and the separation of power. Okay, so I want you to think about at school and who are the important people in school? Teachers. Students. Who else?
Janitors.
Janitors.
Bus drivers.
Bus drivers. Lunch ladies.
Principals.
And principals.
Vice
Superintendent.
So who in your school is in charge?
Superintendent.
Who just in our school though?
Vice principal.
The principal, Mr. Vincent. And then who else?
Vice principal.
Do you have a vice principal?
No.
Do we?
No. So then it would be your teachers. And then at your home, it's who?
The mom.
Mom.
Your parents.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. So it takes everybody to make your school work effectively, right? Yes. So just like that, our government has to have everybody working together to make it work. So the Constitution had set aside directions for how the government should be ran, and it broke it down into 3 branches. Do you know what those 3 branches are?
Legislative, executive, and judicial.
That's right. Okay, so Lawson, can you tell me who's in the executive branch?
The Senate and the Representative.
No.
Oh, no.
What branch is that?
Yeah.
What branch is the House of Representatives and the
The
Senate?
legislative.
The legislative.
President and Cabinet.
Yes, that's what branch?
The executive.
The executive. And what's the judicial branch? Who
Judges.
does
A
that?
bunch of
Judges.
judges.
Judges. Okay, so we are going to play a little matching game so that we can see the different people and the roles and what they do. So we're going to start with we have the executive branch, the judicial branch, and where's my other branch? The legislative branch. Okay, so we're just gonna go through these. Where does the Supreme Court go?
Judicial.
The judicial branch. Where does the vice president go?
The executive.
The executive branch. Where do the justices go?
Legislative.
No, judicial.
The judicial branch, that's right. Where does the president go?
Executive.
Executive.
Executive. And Congress?
Legislative.
Legislative. Who interprets the laws?
Judicial.
No,
Executive.
the executive interprets them. And then
Legislative.
the legislative is the House of Representatives. Yes. So what's the other that goes under the legislative? The House of Representatives, and what else?
The
Senate.
The Senate. Okay, I told y'all wrong. Sorry. The executive branch doesn't interpret.
Judicial.
The judicial branch interprets. So then who enforces?
Executive.
The executive branch enforces the laws. Yes, sorry about that. And then the cabinet
Executive.
is part of the executive. And legislator is the legislative branch. And who makes the laws?
Legislative.
Okay, so if the legislative makes the laws, then what happens after that? Who gets it next?
Executive.
The executive branch. And what do they have to do?
The president has to sign it.
The president has to sign it, and then it goes
To the
to the
judicial.
judicial branch.
Or they judge it.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right. They carry it out. Okay. So we've got 3 branches of government. And what's one thing that you've noticed? Do they share responsibilities for anything?
No.
Do they intertwine?
Oh, I don't know.
No. I mean, do they do the same thing? No. No, they all are separate, and that's what it means by separation of power. that this branch is responsible for this branch is responsible for these things, and this branch is responsible for these things. So I'm gonna ask you some things, and then you're gonna tell me which branch it is. Okay? So, who can sign the bills into law?
Executive branch.
The executive branch. Who can declare war? Who do you think has the power to do that?
Executive.
The executive branch can do that. So only the president can declare war.
So they just go to war now.
Well, he has to get the legislative on board, but he has to make the decision to do it. And who nominates the Supreme Court justices? Garrett.
The judicial, maybe.
Legislative.
The executive does, because the president gets to nominate them. That's why the role of the president has so many important parts to it, because they get to pick the Supreme Court. Did you know that when you get put on the Supreme Court, you don't ever get removed?
Can you
stay
quit
on.
it?
You can quit it, but you get to stay on it forever. Well, that's the only way you get removed.
And they just sit there.
Okay, who declares a law unconstitutional?
Executive?
Legislative.
Legislative. Judicial. I've been saying that the whole time. I thought I was
So
wrong.
the judges, so if someone breaks the law and they go to court and they don't like the answer they get from that judge, they can do what?
Go to a different one.
They can appeal to the next court, and then you can appeal to the next court, and the highest court is the Supreme Court, and so they can declare if something is unconstitutional. Okay, who can veto bills?
President.
The president. So who does anybody have that power to override a veto?
Cabinet.
No,
No. The judicial.
because that would be the
and
same branch.
legislative.
The legislative branch can override a veto. That's right. And who writes the bills? The laws. That's also the legislative. And who can impeach the president?
The legislative.
The legislative is who can impeach. That's right. Okay. So we have matched the powers. So you all are going to draw a line to which branch that you think it is. Okay. You can pick your marker.
Go over those.
That's okay. That's okay. Okay.
I only have one judicial powers.
Okay. So, as a review, how many branches are there?
3.
3.
I just hold it.
And what are they?
The legislative, the executive, and the judicial.
Okay. And where did those 3 branches come from? Like what
The Constitution.
The
the
Congress.
Constitution. And what did it specifically say about those 3 branches? That they were gonna how were they gonna function?
It said that the legislative would.
They're gonna be separate.
Oh.
So they all have power to do things, but they're separate powers. So that's what they mean when you hear separation of powers. That's what they mean. And so, who makes up our judicial branch?
The
Okay.
Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court
The judges.
and other judges. And who makes up our executive branch?
Vice
President
President,
and cabinet.
And president.
And the president. And who makes up the legislative
The
branch?
Congress, the Senate, and the House of Representatives.
Good. And what does the legislative branch do?
It can.
They make the laws.
They make the laws. And what does the executive branch do?
They sign the laws.
They sign it.
They sign
They
the laws.
say, "Hey, I want to
Mhm.
do this, Donald Trump."
That's right. And
They
what does the judicial branch do?
judge the laws.
They do. They interpret it. And since you just said that, who is our president?
Donald Trump, and he signs it like Donald. I don't even know how to spell his name. Cursive. Then
Who's our vice president?
Trump. Donald Trump's vice president. Is that the answer?
I don't know. I don't pay attention to vice presidents.
Pence is his last name.
Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Did I get it?
Mike Pence.
Oh, I just guessed.
And okay, so when someone asks you what the three branches of government are, you're gonna be able to tell them
The
legislative,
executive,
executive,
judicial.
and judicial. And they have what kind of power?
The
Separate.
judicial judges.
Separate power. They have separate.
I'm
They-
gonna name
A lot of
the
times they'll
power.
say separate but equal, because they all have power, and they can't take over another branch because their powers are separate. And that's how it works, to where it doesn't overtake and it doesn't create, tension and chaos, because they all have separate things that they're in charge of. Just like at our school, our cafeteria lady, she's not trying to enforce discipline or make you follow rules. She's worrying about the kitchen. And the counselor isn't
she's
in the
worried about
cafeteria cooking. She's worrying about how to take care of the student needs. And your teacher is teaching. So it's the same thing. That's how our schools work and how our government works. Okay, does anybody have any questions? Yes, Garrett.
Is there any other branch?
Nope, just the three branches. That's how the Constitution was designed, for three branches of government. That's a good question. Okay, thank y'all for being my students today.
Mhm.